last one standing wins.
What's shaking? My name's Cam. Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time tuning in, first of all, thanks. I make weekly videos about fantasy and horror books, so if that's your thing, don't you dare leave. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm an Australian. Yeah. Kangaroos, convicts, and shrimps on the Barbie. At the end of the day, we have Tim Tams and you don't, so. Australia 1, you guys 0. But what you might not know about Aussies is that we have a very special phrase that we use, a very special string of words. It's quite rarely used by us. It's a way of us Aussies bestowing the highest and most prestigious credit possible on someone else. We'll only say this if we think really highly of someone. And that phrase is, they seem like the type of bloke or Sheila I'd shout a tinny or two. Now if you don't speak Australian, that's fine. That roughly translates to, that particular individual is quite pleasant. I would gladly purchase on their behalf several cans of beer, should they be willing. Like I said, it's not something we say lightly. And if an Aussie ever says that about you, you should give yourself a pat on the back, because that means that you are in the inner circle, mate. The big question of today is, who within the pantheon of fantasy book characters would I shout a few tinnies? I don't want to be dramatic, but this is literally the most important video I've probably ever made, and I will be treating this with the full seriousness that it deserves. And after the video is done, I would love to hear what you think. Which fantasy characters would you like to spend a night at the pub with? Now I'm not doing these in any particular order, but I do want to start with a really obvious one. Gimli from Lord of the Rings. Now Gimli would be the type of drinking buddy that would slam 10 pints of VB, then he'd run to the pokies for a few rolls, and then come back with a big group of strangers that are apparently now his best mates. Not only that, but Gimli would drink himself into a blackout by 9 PM, and then a few hours later when you think he's done, when you think he's gone, when things are winding down and things are slowing down, he'd come rolling back in for a boot and rally, drink in hand, and he would get everyone excited to get hype again. He knows all of the best drinking games, even if he's not great at them, and he would be the first to scull a drink from his shoe if it would make someone laugh. So what's the verdict? I would absolutely shout Gimli a tinny. While we're in this circle, let's talk about Legolas, the elf. Look, I love the guy, and I can imagine he would be the type to be super enthusiastic, to do what everyone else wants to do, go where everyone else wants to go. But I also feel like he would be the most sober one at the end of the night, and he would make sure that you know about it. You know, the one guy, every time you go out for drinks, who's like, yeah, I drank like half a carton of Great Northerns, and I barely feel anything.
A slight tingle in my fingers. I think it's affecting me.
Those types are always, they're kind of annoying, you know? Especially when you've just sculled 10 schooners with Gimli. I would not shout Legolas a drink. If they go down so easy, he can buy his own. Aragorn. Now Aragorn would be the coolest guy at the bar, and he would pretend that he doesn't know it, even though you know that he does. He's the dude who would always go out into the smokers area, humble bragging about his trips across Europe. I was going to say Europe, but Middle Earth, to a big group of super drunk hipster chicks. He's fantastic at pool or billiards, so you definitely want him around for that, but picking up girls is nearly impossible with him around, and he's too nice to even be angry about it. I'm not buying Aragorn any drinks, but it wouldn't matter because he wouldn't accept you paying for them anyway. We're not done with Lord of the Rings just yet, but I want to switch franchises for just a second and talk about some more big names in fantasy. Let's start with Hermione. Look, I, like most other millennials, had a crush on Emma Watson since I was a kid, since I started reading Harry Potter. That aside, she would be the shy girl of the crowd that never really adds much to the conversation, but she would be the one that's always going around asking all of the super drunk people if they're okay. She would be the one making sure that everyone gets into a taxi safely before the night is over. You won't see her dancing on the bar or getting too crazy or doing anything like super fun or exciting, but she would be great for those super deep conversations that you always end up having at the end of the night after too many drinks. You know, the really deep DNMs, deep and meaningfuls about space and politics and the nature of existence. So you know what? I'd shout Hermione a tinny for sure. Harry Potter. Harry would 100% be that dude that has 3 drinks and then gets super mopey. The guy that walks away and makes sure everyone sees him walk away to go sit on his own in the corner waiting for someone else to come over and check on him and make sure he's doing okay, just so he can make their night depressing as well. He's a bit of a bummer, let's be real, and I can't imagine alcohol would help. Yeah, sorry, but no tinnies for Harry. Ron would be great to have around, I bet. He'd be keen for drinking games, although I think he'd get pretty salty when he loses. It'd be all good though, because 1 drink later, he would have forgotten all about it, and he'd be back at the beer pong table ready to go. At a certain point in the night though, he'd feel guilty for not checking up on Harry, and he would disappear for a few hours while he's off trying to cheer him up. Multiple tinnies for Ron. He's gonna need him. Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. Now this is a really interesting one. Tyrion is the guy that's off always drinking wine while everyone else is drinking beer, and he makes a big show of it. But he gets away with it because he always has the best one-liners and roasts for everyone else. He'd be the first one to call Harry out for being a whiny baby and then go glass it down of Shiraz like it's water. He's undefeated when it comes to the end of night political debates, and always, inexplicably, ends up leaving with the finest woman at the bar, even though you barely saw them talk to each other all night. Tyrion is cool, and you feel cool when you're with him. I would absolutely shout Tyrion a tinny. Cersei and Jaime, the brother-sister pair that are weirdly close. We all know at least one. They arrive at the pub together and you never see one without the other. They'll aggressively tease each other around other people, but it always feels like flirting, and it just kind of creeps everyone out. No beers, no tinnies. I don't want any part of whatever's going on there. Jon Snow, same deal as Harry. Too mopey, brings the whole mood down for everyone else, and always gets sour when the girl that he obviously likes is talking to other guys.
Are you serious, my brother?
No drinks for Jon. He probably only drinks craft beers anyway. I'm gonna put Gandalf and Dumbledore together because it's pretty much the exact same answer. They are the friendly old fella that you see drinking at the back of the pub, and they seem mighty happy doing it. You'll see them when you go outside for a smoke, probably even have a nice long chat about how much the place has changed since they were your age. They always keep you away from your mates a bit longer than you're comfortable with, but you do get some genuinely interesting stories out of it. In the meantime, I would gladly shout them a beer or two before I ditch to go hang out with my younger friends again. Samwise Gamgee, you know what I'm gonna say. Of course I would buy Samwise a drink, partly because I know he would get the next round of drinks anyway. He's definitely better friends with one person in the group than everyone else, and does follow them around a bit too much. Sometimes he can be a bit of a cockblock, but no one really seems to mind. He doesn't really talk to strangers. In fact, he usually lets everyone else do most of the talking. But if a fight breaks out, you better believe that he'll be the first one in there to have your back. He doesn't go home until everyone else has left safely, and we love him for it. Frodo Baggins. I don't know, man. Frodo's fine and everything, and he's definitely not a drag like Jon or Harry, but he just never quite seems interested in whatever everyone else is doing. He keeps wandering off during all the drinking games and gets way too emotional if any drunken drama happens. Like if 2 mates have a drunk argument about something that doesn't have anything to do with him, he'll somehow find a way to make it about himself, and then he'll leave the pub early. He's always trying to break off from the group and go do his own thing, so yeah, no tinnies for Frodo. Merry and Pippin. These guys are at the top of the list. They are the life of the party, always making sure the jukebox is playing a banger, always making sure everyone has a drink in their hand. They're too busy tearing it up on the dance floor to even worry about hooking up. They're definitely drunk and they keep drinking, but somehow they never get too drunk, like Gimli. They are the guys that are trying to keep the party raging at 3 a.m. and can't go home without going down the street for a slice of pizza. I don't think there's anyone I would want to shout beers for more than these 2 lads. Fill her up, boys. Cheers. I really only scratched the surface here with these characters that I would buy drinks for. I have so many more fantasy characters I could talk about, ones that aren't just featured in popular fantasy movies. But maybe next time. Let me know if you would want to see a part 2 to this, because I very well might do a part 2 depending on how this video goes. Before you go though, I have 2 questions for you, and I want to see an answer in the comments. Which of these characters that I've mentioned would you most like to get a drink with? And which of these characters is most like you? Like, which character are you? BuzzFeed quiz, which of these characters are you? Based on the explanations that I've given. That about does it, but again, thank you for watching, especially for watching through the whole video. I really appreciate it, and I really do hope I see you in the next one. Catcha.